Welcome to the Indie Game Clinic. I am Dr. Joe, and this is the monthly Discord community playtest stream, which probably needs a catchier title with less words in it, but you know, we'll work with what we've got at the moment. It does what it says. The purpose of this stream really is to sort of give a little bonus to people who are in my Discord community. About half of those are people whose games I've reviewed, and the rest are patrons and people that have got YouTube memberships and stuff, which I am super grateful for. It is really, really helpful. It's allowing me to focus more on this and spend more time putting out free stuff on YouTube. Yeah, the purpose of this stream is so that people who are in the Discord community get a sort of priority playtest from me once a month. So yeah, this is looking very sort of high-end in terms of all the textures and everything. One of the things that always worries me about that is it sort of puts everyone's expectation up for every other aspect. If you have like really realistic looking textures and then the sound effects feel very arcadey or whatever, it clashes then. But we're going to get some sort of kind of escape room video game type stuff here, I think. Lots of nice stuff here already, actually. I'm just going to jump down this hole. Where are we going? Are we going around here? So that's a way back if you fall down. Classic don't fall down the thing type puzzle. Unreasonable body standards for aliens. What are these? Right, there's a scarab in there. And we've got an interesting mix of Egyptian and alien stuff. Because we all know who built the pyramids, really. It wasn't this skeleton. Can I bother him? Excuse me. Can I have your jewellery that you left here? Seems fine. Ah! Ah! That is delightful. You went all out there. That could have just been a click in and the key does the thing, right? But it was a lot of extra stuff going on there. A lot of the time it's like, oh, you stick a thing in a wall and a thing opens, and the game world is if the game world is kind of realistic looking, then it's like, why does that happen? Because like there should be some mechanism, but that made that feel really magical, right? Okay, we've got a Mercedes. I'm gonna have to change some of these switches and see which ones don't make me die in a pit. And I'd rather not die every time, so if we've got a puzzle design where you just have to die to find out whether you got it right or not. But maybe I can... Is there a way I can sort of stand on the other platform when I do each one? Because that's what I would do, right? That's just what I was saying. That's kind of the problem with making something that looks very realistic, because then people expect to be able to behave in certain ways. I hate it when that happens. I hate it when I fall in spikes and die. That's delicious. I think that's a really good example of how to make something feel gruesome without it actually being like censorable. Whoa, I'm a bug. Do I go back into here? Is that the idea? And I come back. Oh my goodness. Yeah, one of the things that can really help with designing for navigation, particularly in like 3D or first person games a lot, is if you have a lot of symmetrical places. I mean, this isn't totally symmetrical, right? But it's quite symmetrical. If you have a lot of symmetrical places, then try and give like one side of it a particular character. Like, oh, this is a symmetrical room, but this side has all of the plants growing on it or whatever. And then it makes it a lot easier for people to memorize which way is which in relation to each other. So there's some sort of mechanism behind there. I can't interact directly with this. Do you have any advice, skeleton? Or am I going to have to ask the chat? I've got a bone to pick with you. What if I can't die because I fill the pit with logs? It's time for logs. Whoa. I'm very strong. I think getting reincarnated twice has made me really strong. Hello. I thought I would visit you in my bug form. It's been a while since we hung out. I've born and died 3 times since then, I think. I admired you so much that I wanted to become a skeleton too. Hang on. This is the good thing about doing streams versus proper videos, is I can just act like the most demented QA tester that you've ever seen. I think this should be what you see on the Steam page for this game. Just like this. Sort of alien gooch with a little bug in it. That's the dream. I hate video games because they just cater to the male fantasy. And then it's this. I wonder if we can find out some information while we're back here. Maybe that is part of the dynamic of the game. I'm finding this puzzle very hard, but it also feels like there are enough things in the environment for me to look at and try and ascertain whether they're clues or not, which is very good for a puzzle game to have, right? Right, these all have a rope that is tied here. We get so many dungeons in games where there's just some hidden machinery you never see. And having the ability to look around in the game and see how all of these Indiana Jones type traps work and stuff is really cool. I like it a lot. These kind of traps and puzzles are such a standard of like multiple types of games and settings, and seeing them sort of exposed like this and turning that into the game is really cool. I love it. Because you go into it thinking it's going to be a standard escape room, and that's not really what this is doing. It's doing something totally new. It's much more of a lateral thinking puzzle like we got with Portal and all of the games that came after it that were doing similar things. And solving these sorts of things just gets more satisfying the longer it's taken for you to do it. But I don't think I would have solved that without you guys. And we've got a little place here to rest. You know, if you want to just chill out on the slope. Crack open a few cold ones with the boys on the old slope. Thanks, Dylan, for the recording of the... Yeah, my short-term memory for that kind of stuff. I'm definitely the sort of person that needs to write things down on paper when I play this kind of game, because my short-term memory is bad for lots of reasons. Yeah, thank you to everyone so far who is giving feedback to the dev. It's always really nice and helpful to do. Particularly cool when they're here, so thank you for being able to join us. Right, seeing as Baz is here, let's get Baz's game open. I'm quite excited to play this one because I seem to have done quite a lot with it since last time, and I think it's a difficult idea to execute. You're building a train, which is like a big sort of diesel punk anime kind of feel to it, I guess. Protect the head of the train, it's the only vulnerable part. The rest of the train is your sword and shield. And the reason for this is because the train is basically like playing the game Snake. You are about to play Snake. You can only turn, not start or stop. Avoid massive obstacles like mountain, woods, water, and most of all yourself. Okay? I got to check who climbed aboard in the rush. Could be folks hurt, could be worse. Just keep us moving. We stop, we're dead. Nice sense of stakes, right, in the world of this game. And done in 2 clicks. You know, when you're providing narrative for an action game, you do not need to write War and Peace. You just need to give people some context, let them know why they should care about what they're doing. You've got gas, you've got pressure, you've got hands to work. We ain't just running, we're fighting. Okay. So we've had one little area to just introduce the movement and that you're playing Snake, and now we're going to get ready to fight back against the thing. There's something about this smoke effect that still feels a bit odd. The outlines on it make it look like a very solid object, because the kind of visual rule in the rest of the world is that like an outline is the edge of an object, but smoke isn't really a solid object. So we're spending resources to put weapons on our Snake, basically. I'm going to want to keep the enemies at my back rather than closer to my head. So I'm going to put my guns at as far back as I can. Starting to feel a bit more like there's a choice here, because the first time I played it, it was like, okay, you can build guns on the train, but there wasn't really a sense of why you would want to build one in a particular position. And I don't know if it's just because I've played it before, but at least that I feel like I'm thinking about that a bit more this time. Oh, I went through the trees. That was silly. Right. I do like the idea that all of the enemies are giant bugs. We're going to these arrows again to get out of the level. Is that what happens? Yeah, cool. We're going to put a lightning cannon there and another regular cannon. And now I really do have the guns sort of weighted towards the back of the train, so I'm gonna, I guess, try and go near the enemies, but not actually with the head of the train. It doesn't look very different physically, right? The interface and what you're seeing happen doesn't look very different from the last time I played this on stream a month ago. But in terms of the actual gameplay that happens in my head, where I'm making decisions and stuff, it is absolutely miles ahead. I think a lot of the stuff that you read in this game just needs to be a bit higher contrast as well. Another thing that can help is if you put a shadow, whenever there's stuff on the page that you want players to read, if you put like a shadow or a blur behind here, then it immediately makes this look higher contrast, so it's easier to pay attention to it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff missing in terms of like having sounds when you click on interface and stuff like that. And it currently, even though we're moving from one environment to another, it feels like one long level because you immediately go into the next thing and then there's more dialogue. There isn't a sort of sense of wind down of like the music dips, the screen goes down and then there's the next thing, which can help make you feel like you're progressing through discrete levels. But I do really like the way that this is structured generally of like a tutorial that is gradually introducing the story, gradually introducing elements. It seems very well done so far. I think one of the questions I had the first time I played it a month ago was that, like, how does the tower defense, building of the towers, and the snake really go together? And one of the things that putting these things together is producing is, you know, I just had that moment a moment ago where I was like, oh, I need to put my guns at the back of my train because I need to keep the head of my train away from danger, so it's better to have your firepower at the back. But because it's Snake, the train is constantly growing, and that means that if you put your best guns at the back, they're gonna go out of date soon because they're gonna be closer to the front of the train. So that's an interesting dynamic. I'd like to see it play out a little bit more, but it's an interesting push and pull. Which any game that sort of aims to be a strategy game in the long run needs to have that kind of something that you can't quite balance as a player, something that you will never perfect, right? That just is a moving target. Ah, I see. Okay, so Maurice, when you posted this on our Discord, I couldn't really see what the game was because it was like, oh, it's kind of like Pac-Man, and you have to try and go down the middle of the lane in order to get both sides of the points. But having seen that you die when you hit the wall, it's like, okay, right, this game makes sense now. It's a game of making split-second judgments and taking risks or deciding not to take risks. I don't know if you can hear from the frequency of the blips, but the game gets faster very quickly. Yeah, I'm not going to be good at this, but I already have quite like good feelings about it. I can see this being very appealing for very sort of challenge, rage game based streamers to play. I think the aesthetic is already fantastic. I wouldn't change the visual style of this at all. Those effects when you hit stuff, amazing. I hit that on purpose to get the effect, obviously. Music selection, really interesting. Feels very varied, but also feels like it all goes together. Even the like color palette for where you've got the colored elements is interesting. You know, it's not just every single color in the spectrum, and that makes it feel like a deliberate choice. It feels very designed, like it's very stylish. I said when I saw it on the Discord, I said this looks like a game you would get in like a nightclub in Berlin, but the colors actually have sort of almost like a sort of Scandinavian minimalist feel, like something you would find in IKEA, but as a game. You sort of overcorrect and you try and like nip yourself back and get something, and then it's not worth it most times. And I'm so bad at this, my reactions are not great. I don't know if making it a little bit bigger is gonna impact me in any positive way. Are there still sort of the equivalent of like Flash game portals where you put your game on a site and you get paid for like ads? I mean, this could be a premium game as well, but it does kind of feel like it would do really well as a web portal game. I kind of always think about games in those terms because I used to work in a school and kind of just see what Flash games people played in their break times and stuff, and this feels like it would fit that very, very well. It doesn't control bad at all. I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at Twitch-based games, so every time I crash in this game, every time I would say a very positive thing about this game, and what you want in any kind of action-based game is, when I fail in this game, I don't feel like the game is being unfair to me. I feel like it is because I did something wrong, right? Not everyone will feel that way. Some people will feel like the game is cheating, but the amount of time it takes to turn around in a corridor itself is so hard. Okay. I guess we're doing a new voyage, unless I've been Manchurian candidated and I don't remember playing this game. Oh, men just want one thing. And it's a map of a star system with a little spaceship on it and things that go round. Press the next button to start the tutorial. Enemy action shield ×5. Okay. This is your deck and it shows how many cards you have left in your deck. In this prototype you can't see what cards are in your deck, sorry. I play a lot of these games, play a lot of Slay the Spire, play a lot of Roguebook. I very, very rarely look in my discard pile on my deck. Okay, so we've got positions for recurring ability cards. It's like a gadget in Magic the Gathering, but here you can turn them off, so you get the sort of FTL turning things on and off type thing, which I'm going to sound like a big nerd, but that is kind of my favourite thing in FTL. And I think part of it is because, like, the fiction of Star Trek, right? If you watch Star Trek, there's so much of, like, engineering talk, and, we need to power this down so that we have enough power for this, and I just love that in FTL. Right, they are going to shield 5 times, so I just need to damage as much as I can. So we do a... Oh, that's great. That feels really nice. You could probably already see some graphic design here, things here we can tighten up, like having this text go all the way up to the borders feels a bit cheap, but you know, this is a prototype, and like the view of the game of like having your deck of cards on the control screen, and then yeah, it's really cool. I like it. Right, they're going to shield again, increases all attack card damage by 50, so I put that up there. The dev is in the chat for this one, but I got a link for this one, but it was passworded, so I'm not sure they're doing a fully public demo yet. But yeah, it's great, right? Like, it's got all of the core mechanics of what these games usually have, or at least Slay the Spire and Roguebook are the main ones I've played. But the way it uses the sci-fi theme to kind of present the information differently is really, really nice. And I like that idea of the little bits of equipment that use up power, because like I said, I'm a nerd for Star Trek engineering and turning things on and off. Shield will be maintained between turns. That sounds helpful. Go for the boring survivability thing. And then I think what that star map is going to need is a clear indication of why you would want to go to one place over another. And maybe it was there and I didn't see it, but let's have a look next time we go there. If you look at how Hades does it, you choose the next room. You don't know what you're going to face in the next room in terms of a challenge, but you know what reward you're going to get. So you sort of know the stakes of that room. Slay the Spire, you don't see what the reward is, but you see what the challenge is. It's like the inverse. And there's always in both of those situations, there's a missing piece of information, right? You either see what sort of thing you're going to get, whether it's an enemy or a boss or whatever, and you don't see the reward, or you just see the reward. There's something in there. There's something about having that kind of limited information, but still enough information to make a choice, right? Because people will want to be able to make a judgment in that, even if it is sort of partial information. And I think the partial information judgment is the interesting kind of judgment in these games. Delta Vine said Starless Abyss is the competition for this. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, as with all of these things, you got to play the competition. You got to play the competition, and you got to see what your game is going to do differently from them. You got to make sure that you're offering something different. And if that game is a bigger game made by a team of 10 people and yours is a little game, you still got to do something different. It might not be something more ambitious, it might just have a different vibe. And I think Fred has said about making this first person, because we don't actually need to see our ship at the moment. So yeah, if you were looking out of the ship and playing the cards to hurt the enemy, I do really like the interface, but it's like we're watching our ship there and then we're in a ship, which I guess is maybe supposed to be something else. Yeah, I do wonder about that suggestion about making it first person, if it would differentiate it from similar games maybe.
Where are you going on your holidays? Oh, I thought me and Phil, we thought we might go to RZ46G1. You know? You know? Me and Phil, we said we might go back to RZ46G1. It's nice there this time of year, isn't it? It's nice. They've got all of the, all of the pelicans come out this time of year. But have you thought instead about maybe going to RZ46G1? Well, actually, that's the same name, isn't it? That's the same name. It's very confusing that they made two planets, two different hotel resort planets, so close together, and yet gave them the same name. They're obviously not the same planet because one is blue and one is brown, but it makes it very difficult to decide where to go on your holidays, doesn't it? Sorry, I went somewhere else then for a moment. I don't know, the medication is kicking in or something. So I will say the name of this game, Stellar Rogues, it's not sort of jumping out at me as the most creative name. I'm getting rogue fatigue generally when it comes to indie game marketing. That doesn't mean I don't like roguelikes. I think it's still one of my favourite things in games when it's done well. But I think roguelikes that have rogue in the title just doesn't do anything for me, because it's like, I don't know, I'm never going to just search the word rogue and play a game because it has rogue in the title, right? I think it's maybe better having a theme-based name, having a name based on the universe you're developing or something. But my preference and experience might not line up with other people's in that regard, but it kind of puts me off a little bit when things are called rogue and they have rogue in the title. It feels unimaginative. I also wouldn't want it to have cards or deck in the title. It just sort of undermines the idea that I'm engaging with a sort of fantasy science fictional world, you know? And I've seen more games than I care to remember in this genre where they just haven't really seemed to understand that basic idea of there being builds and that the player is trying to build a particular type of build. So I think that one is already well on its way to being like a better one of those games. Yeah, I mean, someone mentioned a competitor in terms of like a similar game doing a similar thing, and yeah, play that if you haven't, because you always need to play the competition so you can get upset about how much better their game is and cry. We're going to have a very zen end to the stream, doing about 30 minutes of Cosmo Tiles, which is the most relaxing game and doesn't require a whole lot of thought. And I don't say that as to diminish it, because I think it's a very well-made game, kind of structurally, and it's very appealing. And I quite like the fact that it's quite casual. Sometimes that's what you're making, and it just needs to do that well. This is a sort of tile laying game. So if you've played a board game like Carcassonne or any game where you're building a place laying tiles, it is one of those. I think I played this in a stream a few months ago actually, and I've been meaning to cover it in a video, and I think it's a really good example of like minimalism as well, both in terms of like how it looks visually and the gameplay. This is definitely a genre of game, of tile laying games, where again, looking at board games and looking at card games that do the same thing can be a really good way of getting ideas, because there are lots of board games that are about laying hexagonal tiles and scoring differently based on where they go and stuff. And the most complicated one I've ever played is called Calico. Calico has a total mismatch between how simple it looks and how complicated it is. This looks cute and simple, and it is cute and simple, whereas Calico looks cute and simple and then it's just the most brain-melting thing. And I don't like that. I like the aesthetic to match up with the difficulty of the game, Otherwise, it's evil and it's tricking me. It's going to be quite hard to see, especially if you're on a phone, but these blocks represent the tiles I can play, and the middle is the actual tile type
and the outside is what it scores next to. So these grey and brown ones are going to score for being next to each other. So I'm going to put a mountain there, and then I'll put a brown thing next to it. So they want to be next to their opposites. A very simple scoring rule. Actually, using the mouse wheel to turn those round feels really good. That's a very good control design decision. I really like that. I think one usability improvement I'd like to see here is like some sort of pattern on the hexagons up here so you can see which one you're using. One of the things people are going to struggle with is the distinction between the forests and I guess you would call this a mesa, because this is quite close to red, and the red-green colorblind people, which is 1/10 of men, I think it's 1/10 of men can't tell red from green, which I think personally is a skill issue. But you know, we're supposed to take this sort of stuff seriously as designers. I personally think if you're an adult and you can't tell the difference between red and green, you know, you just need to learn how to. Just part of being a grown-up, you know. You can't just walk out in front of traffic and say, "Oh, sorry, I don't know which man's the red man and which man's the green man." I am joking. If you're new to the channel and you don't understand my sense of humour, you think, "Oh, this guy's been really ableist about colourblind people." Yeah, that was kind of the bit I was doing, was like, what if I was really unreasonable and ableist about colourblindness? But it's really common, right? And I think a lot of people don't think of it as a disability, and like disabilities become disabilities when they prevent you doing something, which means that the disability isn't natural. The disability comes from things not being designed to accommodate you, right? And that means when you use colour as a differentiator in a game mechanic, you also have to use something else. So at the moment, the tiles on the board, this looks like a forest, this looks like a mesa, they're well differentiated. But when they're at the side of the screen, it is just totally dependent on colour. You have to remember, if you have a audience and that's like 10% of the dudes in the audience are going to be colorblind in that way, and a small percentage of the women as well. You do get colorblind women, but it's not as common. You just saying, "Hey man, I don't want your money." Yeah, the closer we get towards the end of the stream, the more demented I get. I'm sorry. I'll take it down a bit. It definitely feels frustrating sometimes, but mostly because you mess the map up yourself and then you feel frustrated with yourself, which often in games where players are building things and making decisions about where things go, if they get into a position where they've sort of messed up, you want them to feel like that's their fault and it's a product of their poor planning and not the game just being unfair. And I think this nails that really well. It's that, oh, I've left this green hexagon here that I can't build on, and that means that no one is ever going to love me ever again. I like the sort of soft thud when you place the tiles as well. You could imagine there being a temptation to make that a sort of click sound, but the fact that it's a very soft thud, it feels more appropriate to the idea of building a planet and placing a mountain. And it's not like a big it's a very gentle sound, but it's satisfying, and it's also not what you might initially expect it to be. Planet complete. Oh, look. Where do you want to live? Barbara, have you been to the lagoon? Is it shaped like male genitalia? Yes. Oh, let's go then. I'll only go to the lagoon if it looks a bit like male genitalia. Well, you're in luck. Have you got one that looks a bit like a teddy bear's head? Yes. I don't want to go there. Let's go to the other one. Okay, next planet.
Thank you to the patrons. You have enabled this thing to